Number one Ibble Dibble here. Hello, friends. Today I found myself fresh out of patience with the New York Times. Fair warning, this is a listen only video. You don't need to look at the screen, you're not going to miss anything. They keep platforming Meghan, they keep letting her write her own articles. They keep failing to reasonably fact check her many misrepresentations. Question for Julia Moskin and her editor at New York Times Cooking. How much are you charging for multi-page ad spreads masquerading as journalism? When was the last time you were reminded that it is illegal to promote products in return for compensation of any type, including in kind, without disclosure? This article is bad journalism. This article is bad advertising. Julia Moskin, you won a Pulitzer Prize for public service in 2018, uncovering harassment at high-profile New York restaurants. Your 2020 investigation into sexual coercion at the Court of Master Sommeliers led to the resignation of its board. You initially became known for your 2004 investigation into financial corruption at the James Beard Foundation. What happened to you? How are you comfortable putting your byline to this shit? Thus far, I've ignored the New York Times' pathetic pandering to Meghan because it's infrequent relative to magazines like People or Variety. But I think this was my last straw, so from now on, you, New York Times, will be getting sliced, diced, chopped, shredded, and mashed, ibble dibble style, in a little mini series of videos. I'm going to go all the way back in your coverage of her. And I mean all the way back. I mean, what's under the tree in their backyard? Back. And use your own words against you to reveal you all as the lazy, bought off fools you have been in your coverage of Meghan. Shall we begin? Let me set the scene and show you the pattern before I dive into individual articles. Before we even get going, the timing. Time is of the essence. This nauseating puff piece was published April 2nd. It is no coincidence that she launched her as ever shopping site and this article to support it as quickly as physically possible after Harry's Sentabale scandal hit the press. Looking at the history of Meghan coverage in the New York Times, it's obvious that every time anyone writes anything about her or Harry that's not 100% effervescent praise, an article comes out that same week or the following week that is. Let me show you the latest two examples. On March 1st, Stephen Karutz's Style section article titled, "With Netflix Show, Meghan Tries for Lifestyle Maven Status," describes Meghan as a second-rate influencer and TV actress who perceived her own marriage to Prince Harry as an inconvenient delay in her decade-long pursuit of becoming, quote, the millennial Martha Stewart of Montecito, end quote. He takes care to list many of her most widely despised efforts, including, quote, cannily telling and monetizing their step back from royal duties, end quote, showing Oprah her chicken coop, having to rebrand her, quote, awkwardly named American Riviera Orchard, end quote, and he brought up her fake calligraphy multiple times. In the most biting paragraph, he writes, quote, how will With Love Meghan be different from other lifestyle shows? That remains to be seen. The trailer shows Meghan in an apron preparing delectable-looking desserts for her girlfriends, including the actress Mindy Kaling, and sharing quote-unquote tips and tricks, like her go-for-it approach to creating colorful floral arrangements. But some footage, like Meghan in full beekeeper garb tending her home beehive, is derivative of other lifestyle entrepreneurs' work. In her 1982 book, Entertaining, Martha Stewart is pictured in full regalia tending her own hives. When Meghan says that she's, quote, always loved taking something pretty ordinary and elevating it, end quote, she echoes how Ms. Stewart has described her approach almost verbatim, end quote. And 3 days later, March 4th, the Style section, Katie Van Sickle, a completely sycophantic article titled 5 Takeaways from With Love Meghan with about a bajillion quotes from Meghan. First, after running down every product and show she has for consumption, quote, Here are details on the harvests, recipes, crafts, and theories on the good life that she shares in the new series, which feels a lot like a billboard for her next chapter. What does she cook? Mostly light, simple recipes with local ingredients. Think comedians in cars getting coffee if they were making pickles. I love feeding people, Megan says. It's probably my love language. What does she make by hand? Seemingly as much as she can, while also happily embracing a shortcut. I love to be able to take something that's pretty ordinary and elevate it, she says. She uses leftover wax from a beehive to make candles. She turns leftover bacon into dog biscuits for a friend's pet. She even does something thoughtful for the family's chickens, many of which were rescued from a factory farm, giving them a block of ice filled with fruits and vegetables. What does she harvest? So many things! Exclamation point. The joy of hostessing for me is surprising people with moments that let them know I was really thinking of their whole experience, she said. What does she wear? I like high and low, Megan says. Do we see much of Prince Harry or the rest of her family? Not really. This feels like a new chapter that I'm so excited that I get to share. And here we go, there's a business. All of that is part of the creativity that I've missed so much. End quote. Just who do you think got what in exchange for letting Megan's PR team at Netflix write this article for Katie Van Sickle? How high up do you think this goes? I understand the New York Times probably feels an immense amount of pressure to compete with the tabloids as print news media dies. I understand the leadership basically thinks arts and entertainment are not very important and not only don't need to be covered with the same journalistic integrity as politics or business, but to me, straight up selling inches of coverage to other media conglomerates like Netflix sinks far beneath an acceptable level of credibility. Where is the gray lady? When did this stop being the paper of record? The pattern repeats so often with Harry and Meghan, I almost think this is part of the Times business model now. Publish a scathing, snarky, very New York indictment of any super wealthy and hyped mainstream media personality, and wait for them to call you with a fat check to clear their name. Here's the next bizarre example. In a March 11th article titled, Wait, what is Meghan's last name? Gina Turles explains in detail with quotes from experts how Meghan Sussex is incorrect, pretentious, disrespectful to Harry's grandparents. No, just joking. She didn't say that last one. But she does quote Lord Ivar Mountbatten on the matter, so you can imagine how he feels about it. And notes the only people supporting her are publications like Pure Wow, who say she's not part of the royal family and royal system anymore, so she can use whatever name she wants. Well, she sure can. Doesn't mean we have to. And honestly, it's probably pretty foolish of her to encourage people to create their own nicknames for her. Terlis also mentions how most viewers perceived Meghan's correction of Mindy Kaling as rude and passive aggressive. The next coverage of Meghan is 12 days later in the style section, possibly the dumbest thing I've ever seen, written by Maggie Lang, titled A Doll That Gives Toddlers a Taste for Finer Things, subtitle Meghan, Duchess of Sussex is a Fan. This style section article attempts to portray Meghan as a tastemaker, taking 15 paragraphs to repeatedly claim that there's been a run on this $20 doll that Meghan happens to mention by name in the Netflix show. A taste for the finer things? Spare me. It's so transparent. Quote, Rachel Sawatsky, 29, who has a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old daughter, owns a Stella doll and several accessory sets. Ms. Sawatsky, a social media manager who lives outside Toronto, gravitated toward the toy partly because it's not too obnoxious looking. Oh yeah, of course Meghan likes it, Ms. Sawatsky recalled thinking. It's just an elevated doll, end quote. Oh my god, this is supposed to be the New York Times. Quote, Ms. Molstad, a toy shop owner, characterized the alfresco doll as fitting into the type of aspirational lifestyle evangelized by Meghan in her show. Quote, she's in her own bubble and realm, but yet she has this ability to be relevant for moms today, Ms. Molstad said. She's created this perfect medium between relatable and also completely unattainable. End quote. One of the Love Stella accessory sets, a $20 kit for travel adventures, comes with a tiny passport and soft stamps that can be affixed to it. But instead of the names of faraway countries, the passport stamps feature ordinary locations: my home, the market, grandma and grandpa's house. By casting routine excursions as an adventure, the stamps recall another ethos Meghan espouses in her show: elevating the everyday. End quote. 15 paragraphs. What the actual fuck, New York Times? Who approved this? It was like, yeah, this is a great article. Print it. Meghan is not a toy influencer, and I shudder at the thought of her turning her children into child influencers. It seems to me a lot more like Ted, I only read headlines, Sarandos will just pay anything to protect his kind of bad investment by trying to bury any unflattering results in your search bar. I don't speak for all New Yorkers, but everyone I've ever known of every class and culture, of which we have many, uses the same 100% surefire, satisfaction guaranteed method of buying toys for 3-year-olds. Walk into a toy store, they squeal with delight and try to touch it, you buy it. It's simply outlandish that standards have fallen to this level. Completely unacceptable. Unfortunately for Meghan and Ted, just 3 days later, Harry fucked it all up for her with the Sentabale scandal. On March 26th, we get a Europe section article by Lindsay Schutel titled "Prince Harry Steps Down as Patron of Charity He Founded." On March 30th, Prince Harry accused of bullying by chair of charity he co-founded. On March 31st, what we know about the dispute at Prince Harry's charity. And wouldn't you know it, April 2nd, this bullshit inside Meghan's real kitchen away from the cameras. And same day, another one, 2 beautiful spring recipes from Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. And then there's just the sheer volume of coverage. Between February 18th and today, there have been 7 articles about either Meghan Markle's cooking show or her products. 7? Why? Well, we know why. I suppose I mean, how dare you? Just for comparison's sake, take a guess about how many there have been about Pamela Anderson, whose cooking show you all say you much prefer. Write it in the comments. Ready? 0. 0. Not a single shout out for Pammy. Guess who isn't gonna let Meghan bury the Sentabale scandal with her self-aggrandizing bullshit? I hope I've set the scene for you. My next video in this series will be just ripping apart Julia Moskin's pathetic little tribute word by word. I hope you'll join me. The joy of hostessing for me is surprising people with moments that let them know I was really thinking of their whole experience. Everyone can relax and enjoy. Toodles! Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.